morning. Welcome to Morning Devotion. My name is Ryan Pfeiffer, pastor of Next Gen Ministries, and our reading this morning comes from Luke chapter 10. We're going to begin in verse 1. After this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them on ahead of him, two by two, into every town and place where he himself was about to go. And he said to them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Go your way. Behold, I am sending you out as lambs in the midst of wolves." I love this passage because Jesus is just reminding us of the kind of purpose and calling that we have in our world. Because in this time, we can get distracted, discouraged, and off course. But right now, Jesus wants to recenter you on your purpose and calling in the world. And he wants to do it by reminding us that we are his forerunners, his ambassadors of his coming kingdom, into every relationship that God has sent us. And so all the relationships that God's put in our life are the places that God has sent us in anticipation of he himself coming into their life to reveal himself. So be encouraged. I want to focus on the kind of posture that Jesus wants to send us out with. Because right now, that's really important. There are a lot of false attitudes and postures that are not in line with God's heart and attitude. And I want to get us on track with the kind of attitude that Jesus wants us to have. And so I want to read from verse 3. Check this out. He says, "I'm sending you out as lambs in the midst of wolves." This is a really powerful image and illustration. Lambs. What does it mean to have a posture of a lamb? Well, first of all, a lamb is a younger, smaller version of sheep. And Jesus, along with other biblical writers, use it to emphasize and highlight the kind of humility and gentleness that of the posture that we're to have as he sends us out. And he's talking about the kind of humility that he himself carried out his mission and purpose. So in Isaiah 53:7, Isaiah describes the coming Messiah as one not who would come as a conquering king with his powerful military force, but as one who would come as a lamb being led to the slaughter. And then Revelation, where we see the full vision of God's victory revealed. Jesus is 28 times referred to as a lamb, oftentimes as a lamb who had been slaughtered, reminding us that the pathway for God's victory in the world comes through a people who are committed to a posture of gentleness, vulnerability, and humility. Next, having a posture of a lamb illustrates a posture of dependence on God. And so in verse 3, Jesus talks to the disciples about not taking with them their money bags, not taking with them a knapsack, and then in verses 5-7, that when they go into these towns they're going to preach, to accept the hospitality of people who will receive them, and to be comfortable depending on them for their essential needs like food and water. All of these are meant to enable the disciples to live in a way that communicates their dependence on God for everything that they need. Because as a lamb depends on a shepherd, they're to reveal to the world their dependence on the greatest shepherd of all, who is always faithful and always provides, our Lord Jesus. Now, what does that mean for us today? Well, there's a lot of talk about an economic future crisis as a result of all the shelter in place that we've been going through. And I want to encourage you, don't be afraid of that. Don't let that trouble you or stir up fear in you, because if that were to come, what if God were to want to use that as a way of creating a context of scarcity and difficulty that allows the world to see a confident trust in us that displays the trustworthiness of Christ as our shepherd and a shepherd for the whole world? Now, I don't know if that's ever going to come, if we're going to have an economic crisis, but we don't need to be afraid of it, because even if it did come, God is going to use it for his purpose and will. The question is, will you trust God no matter what comes our way? And I want to invite you to see that even if that were to come, how God could use it for his purpose, the purpose to which you are called, and the purpose to which every other purpose in our life is subordinate to. And then lastly, this imagery of a lamb illustrates and communicates to us a posture of gentleness and innocence. So in verse 10, he instructs his disciples, look, if people don't want to hear your message, Don't get discouraged and don't get pushy and don't get strident. Don't try to force the message on people when they don't want to hear it. He says, go out into the street, dust the dirt off your feet, and go on to the next town. We don't need to push our message on people, and we don't need to get self-righteous. We don't need to get strident. We don't need to get pushy. I've been reading some social media posts and Facebook posts by by non-Christians and even by Christians. And I've really been saddened to see the kind of judgmentalism, self-righteous attitude, and arrogance and stridency in people's posts. I've even seen Christians being harsh in the way they criticize pastors, patronizing to pastors, because pastors aren't responding to the situation the way they think they should respond to. But I want to remind you, that's not the Spirit of Christ. I want to encourage you, be like Jesus, be a lamb among wolves. Don't try to become a wolf among wolves. Stay humble and stay gentle. God bless you.